This is Dolany TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and welcome into another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today. Today, I've got a little graphic built up that I want to discuss because let me tell you, it's an ugly go again this season for the Oilers. Not quite over, right? Obviously, it didn't cost us and finish off the season, but there's something to discuss here when it comes to our defensemen. I discuss it often, usually midway through the year and then at the end of the year, if you've kind of followed how I've done things these past two seasons. But let's get right to it, alright? I'm going to kind of make the argument and then we're going to discuss some theories on how this needs to improve. Oilers defensemen scored a combined 22 goals this season. That's point number one. So obviously, if I'm starting with point number one, I need to tell you who those defensemen are that combined for those goals. You have Ethan Bear, Matt Benning, Mike Green, Caleb Jones, Oscar Klefbom, William Lagesson, Adam Larson, Brandon Manning, Darnell Nurse, Joel Persson, and Chris Russell. So 11 defensemen, ladies and gentlemen, we used so far this season in the 71 game regular season. We used 11 defensemen, and they combined on average for a total of 2 goals each. I'm sorry. Okay, that just doesn't cut it. In any book of a team really succeeding, that just doesn't cut it, all right? You look at the goal leaders for the Oilers in the defensive department, it's Ethan Bear with 5, it's Oscar Klefbom with 5, and Darnell Nurse with 5. That is not going to cut it at all, especially when you go over to NHL.com. Just come with me here if we can find it. I put NHL com. I don't know what I'm doing. But you go over to the stats page, league leaders by player, and just sort this out on their website. I invite you to do it right now. I try to do this with you at the same time. Defensemen and get stats, alright? Get stats for defensemen. The NHL leaders in defensive goals scored. You had Zach Werenski with 20. You had Pietrangelo with 16. Yossi with 16. DeAngelo with 15. Weber with 15. You had John Carlson with 15. Chris Letang with 15. Dougie Hamilton with 14. Ivan Provorov. Yeah, like, when's the last time you heard his name? 13 goals. Shea Theodore in Vegas with 13 goals. Brent Burns with 12. Jacob Chychrun out of Arizona. Yeah, with 12 goals. Cale Makar with 12. Jared Spurgeon with 12. Victor Hedman with 11. Jeff Petrie had 11 goals this season. Ryan Pulock, Colton Parayko, Michael Sergachev round out the guys with 10 goals. Ryan Graves had 9. Oliver Ekman-Larsson had 9. Krug with 9. Fowler with 9. Mark Pysyk had 9. Okay, like Philip Hronek. Who the heck's Philip Hronek? He plays on the Detroit Red Wings. He had 9 goals, right? And he had a total of 22 points, or 22 assists for 31 points. Ladies and gentlemen, that just speaks a little bit right there to how broken our defensive scoring system is, because yes, you can eliminate some goals because of tips. Obviously, what comes to mind is Gaetan Haas in 2 or 3 games back to back scoring goals on tips. That's fine. Eliminate a couple, but yeah, we'll get to stat number 2. The Oilers defensemen combined for a total of 65 or 645 shots this season. It's right there and I can't read it. That's a total of 30.7% of all Oilers shots this year. That is absolutely stupid. That on 30.7% of our shots this year coming from one group of players, we scored a total of 22 goals. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you go over to the hockey reference page on hockey reference for the Edmonton Oilers, and you go for the goals for section there, 223 goals were scored by the Edmonton Oilers this season. Okay, and nobody really understood what I was getting at early in the season when I was yelling, we need to get our defensive shots through. You get those shots on net, this Edmonton Oilers team becomes much, much better, much, much scarier. And the reason that is right, like you look at this, right? 645 shots this season, that's 30.7% of our shots, but we only scored 22 goals. So now you account for every puck that went into the corner because our defense has a tendency to shoot wide of the net more often than it seems any other defense in the NHL does, from what I watch. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, you can see, okay, maybe you could increase that. Yeah, the shots would increase, but the goals, my goodness, the goals have to increase if you shoot the puck accurately on net more often than not, right? So that was kind of the argument there. Now, number 3, the point on that is that means Oilers forwards shot a combined 13.8% shooting percentage. I'm sorry, you've had a good season. You've had a pretty good season if you shoot 13.8% for the year as a forward, okay? So, where does this leave me? This leaves me in the exact same boat I've been in this whole thing, yelling about defensive scoring, defensive scoring. My friends, if the Oilers get defensive scoring in which they're hitting the net, they're scoring goals at a pace that isn't stupid, because you want to know what 22 divided by 645 is, what kind of shooting percentage that is? That's a total shooting percentage of 3.4%. That's dumb. That's absolutely dumb. I should have had that on there, but like, how do you justify an Oilers defense that goes out there and does that every single season, it seems? And I mean, it was the same issue last year. I did a whole video on it, but it just leaves me dumbfounded that year after year, everybody yells about the Oilers defense being defensively inept, but the offense just gets a complete pass, right? Like, from the NHL fan base, you never hear, oh, the Oilers defense can't score, man, they're trash. No, you hear the Oilers defense can't defend, they're trash. Yes, they're defensemen, but at some point, right, the argument with paying a guy like Adam Larsson $4.167 million for a total of 6 points in 49 games as a top pairing defenseman. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't cut it. It just does not cut it. Or paying Chris Russell $4 million to get 9 assists in 55 games. Just doesn't cut it. You need, I don't care, anytime you pay a defenseman over, say, $2 million or $2.5 million, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, you need to be getting some good offensive production, back of the net production, goal scoring production out of your defenseman. Even Oscar Klefbom or Darnell Nurse, who's due for a huge raise next season. What did you get out of them? You got 5 goals out of Darnell Nurse. You got 5 goals out of Oscar Klefbom. And those guys both played 62 games and 71 games respectively. So, right? Like, there's no production there in terms of contract value, right? Obviously, yeah, they both had 30 plus points. And every time Klefbom has 30 plus points, we make the playoffs. Great, cool trend. But you need to get more goal scoring out of them than you've got. And actually, that shooting percentage, that 3.4 that I told you about, Klefbom and Nurse both shot less than that. Oscar Klefbom shot 3.1% this season. Darnell Nurse shot 2.9%. What is it? Like, I'm sorry. You shoot 170 shots, 159 shots for Klefbom. You gotta be able to do something more with those shots than you did with them this season and last season, based on the money you're getting. That's straight up the argument. I don't care. Dollars do not equal the production we're getting goal scoring wise from our defense in comparison to a guy like Ethan Bear, who on a sliding scale should get a heck of an increase, and should, because he played second pair minutes and was very effective all year long, scored 5 goals as well, right? So, bang. And you know what? Ethan Bear, 5 goals, 16 assists, 21 points in a full rookie season. Guys, ridiculous to think that we're paying a guy, what, $900,000, $800,000. He gets 5 goals, just as many as the guys we're paying 3.2 and 4.1 something. I'm sorry. Like, we have to, at some point, either figure out why our defense can't score goals, or we have to figure out how to bring somebody in that can. Because you know who didn't shoot the puck? Caleb Jones had 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points this season, a 10.5 shooting percentage on 38 shots in 43 games played. You know what? There you go. Straight up, you need an argument as to why You need to have Caleb Jones in the lineup as the sixth defenseman over Chris Russell. Goal scoring, 100%. Give Caleb Jones the chance, because when he shoots the puck, he can actually score a goal. Compared to half of these guys we use this season, right? Adam Larson, 1 goal. Brandon Manning, 9 games, 1 goal. So I'm sorry, that's a big red flag right there. And then you have Joel Persson, who didn't do anything in 13 games. Chris Russell, nothing in 55 games. You had William Lagesson, nothing in 8 games. Mike Green, don't blame him, only 2 games and he banged himself up. But Matt Benning, 1 goal in 43 games. Guys, I'm sorry. This may be a totally moot argument, really, but I'm just so frustrated by watching our defense, right, how it's paid out this season and last season, and we just get nothing in terms of goal scoring for the dollars spent, and yet the NHL sits there and laughs at our defensemen for being absolutely clueless defensively most of the time up until this season, which we piecemealed it together, got some goaltending, and actually was able to figure something out. But for the most part, guys, talk about the past 10 years. What has the NHL laughed most about at the Oilers? The inability to defend. And I'm sorry, that is not as big of a concern anymore to me as the lack of goal scoring from our guys on the back end. Guys, I'm Tyson. This is Dolany TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will catch you in the next one.